I was camping up in Heber, Arizona with my brothers and my dad. I was 15 at that time, and we were deep in the woods, far from most other camps. Me and my brothers had our own tent, whilst my dad had a separate one not far off. He likes to give us our privacy while we were camping. We would usually run around a bit at night before going to bed, entering our camp to sleep at about 11 p.m. One night we were playing hide-and-seek when we heard a branch snap a few yards from us. We assumed it was an elk or something, since they were pretty common in our area. I called for my youngest brother, who was still hiding, and he revealed himself to be hiding behind a branch pile not super far from where the noise originated. We went to the tent, and I decided since it was already pretty late that we should just go to sleep. The next morning I went to check the spot for elk prints, since I found them pretty fascinating. Instead, I found large cat prints. I knew they were cat prints because they had the 4 toe pads and the large center pad as well. Such large footprints mean that they were not of a cat, but of a mountain lion. I had always wanted to see a mountain lion, but it never happened. But at that time I was so scared that I was praying that he would not come in front of me. More frighteningly, those footprints were there where my youngest brother was hiding, separated from us. And if the lion had seen my younger brother there, who knows what he would have done to him? We stopped playing hide-and-seek at night to avoid those types of situations, and we actually set up a roll call system to ensure everyone was together at night. Now I know the mountain lion didn't see him, but still, the danger felt very real, and I worried that if I hadn't heard him, I might have lost my brother. This happened to some friends of mine in Sydney, Australia. We used to take some bottles of beer with us and go for a hike about 4 kilometers into the bush to the middle of nowhere to drink without worrying about getting into trouble. And we used to sleep in our sleeping bags under the stars without setting up camp. So one afternoon, my friends, without me this time, headed off with beer to the usual camp spot we'd use. Being young and stupid, no one checked the weather forecast, otherwise they'd have no heavy rain was on the way. In the middle of the night, 5 drunk teenagers left the campsite to shelter in caves nearby. These caves were located high up on the banks of the Hawkesbury River. Soaked from the rain and cold, they started to dig a fire pit. Unfortunately, they dug up human remains. They were too drunk to return home, so spent a miserable night in the rain waiting for dawn. They didn't even dare to stay anywhere near the caves. In the morning, they called police. The police investigated and discovered the remains were in very old Aboriginal burial site and were relocated to avoid being accidentally disturbed again. 10 years ago, when I was a skinny little 17-year-old, I was hiking the rural side of a levee with a friend who was even more skinnier than I was. It was a long walk into the woods, and for about an hour or more we hadn't seen anyone else, just trees and foliage. We finally stumbled upon a huge nest-looking area. It was so random and out of place, so we investigated. There was paper and cloth everywhere, torn magazine pages, old clothes, cans, everything piled into one huge mess. We assumed maybe people drove their truck out here and dumped their trash, so we just turned to leave, but in that very moment, we saw a tall, rugged man wearing all black staring right at us. He was maybe more than 6 FT, had shaggy, unkempt hair, and looked dirty and disturbed. He stood 15 feet away, and he was just staring and silent. My friend didn't say something, so I said, "Hi, do you live here? Is this your stuff?" And he only nodded yes, and then we slowly backed away and left. He just stared at us until we could no longer see him anymore, and then we picked up speed to get back to civilization.